This is the intro. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a lovely Global Nerds podcast with a special guest, which is a Mr. Bryan Hill. I hope I said your name right.
You did indeed. It's
Yes.
an easy name to pronounce.
Yes,
some people pronounce it asshole, but it's really Bryan Hill. I don't really understand. That must be like a different, like a different region or something. You know what I mean? Sometimes she be regional.
Oh,
hey, it depends. Region lock is very important. Okay,
Regional, yeah. That's why I should be like, I'm sorry, you speak in that PAL. I'm NTSC. I don't understand what you saying. I don't speak PAL. I don't have the converter.
but I'm PAL over here because we don't have NTSC.
That's right, because you're over there across the pond. It is, yeah.
Across the pond, of course I am.
Harry. I'm sorry. I've already gotten started.
It's absolutely fine.
Intro right here.
I will be good. I promise.
It's like the best intro right here.
So there we go. We've also joined with Darrell Philip Johnson, as well as Shy as well, and myself, Mark. There we go. Intro done.
you just had to give out your government though.
My government.
You gave up Johnson's government. Just
Okay.
well, since we starting off with government names, we got Bryan Edward Hill. Man, he's a native of St. Louis, Missouri. Graduating from the New York University Film School, y'all, and became the man as we know him today. Comic writer, story writer, film writer, TV writer, producer, comics for Marvel and DC. I mean, what haven't you not done, man?
I haven't had coffee with Eva Green, and I'm very upset about that.
You are from LA. How have you not had that coffee yet?
Well, I think she lives in Europe or something, but we'll get together. I gotta have that coffee and get her to star in a movie I want to direct. That's a goal, but we could talk about that in a second. Yeah, I'm good. I'm broadcasting from downtown Los Angeles. It's a little gray here on a Monday, but we out here.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry that you're stuck downtown LA because we out here and it's bipolar weather. It's sunny, then it's raining, then it's sunny, then it's raining, then it's snowing.
Oh, I like it gray because it helps me hide from the ops. I got so many ops, I'd be confusing them for other ops,
Oh man. Welcome to the show, Mr. Chris B.
How's it going? Sorry I'm late. There was a little debacle, but yeah, Bryan, beyond honored that you joined us today, man. Thank you.
Well, I'm honored that you wore that fly bomber jacket, man. Like, look at you.
Thanks.
They're bringing the fashion.
H&M.
There you go. Look, H&M, they got some stuff over there.
Oh yeah.
They talk about fast fashion, but I don't know. H&M will hold it down.
They do.
H&M, hot and messy.
This podcast brought to you by H&M.
Dude, I would love to get them for a sponsor, man. Oh my god.
Ask. I'm
should,
sure,
honestly.
no pop culture podcast is like just checking in with H&M. Just ask. You'll probably at least get some socks.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
See, I put you on game already. We've been doing this like 10 minutes. And I put you on game.
There you go. We foot models over here.
Another one. I'm just my own soundboard, so don't even worry about it. I just have my own soundboard.
Come in.
So what's up? What do you want to talk about today? How can we entertain your fine listeners and viewers?
Of course, we gotta know who you are. Like, how did you get your start in this entertainment industry? Let's start from the very beginning and get like a little timestamp.
Oh yeah, I mean, okay, so like a lot of people, I had a really good English teacher, honestly, that I met in high school. Her name was Carolyn Thomas, and she was very supportive of my desire to tell stories and create. When I was a kid, well, for a long time, I wanted to be an FBI agent. I wanted to catch serial killers because I read Red Dragon when I was a kid, and I wanted to be like Will Graham, the character in that.
Sweet.
And then my mom was like, "You're really serious about this. Pick something else where you don't have a gun." And I'm like, I like movies. And so, yeah. And I just had a really good relationship with, my kind of creative writing instructors in high school. And then they suggested I go to film school, and I did that. It was really hard, NYU, because I was broke. And I didn't realize how like NYU is full of people who were rich. I was not rich. I was very broke. So I couldn't really afford to make movies in film school. But I could afford to write movies because writing was free.
Right.
So I just spent most of NYU working on other people's films, learning, as much as I could, but doing a lot of writing. And then I came out of NYU and had a number of hard years, as any creative career will give you. I think, my talent isn't writing. My talent isn't storytelling. My talent really isn't art. My talent is I don't quit.
Okay.
That's the thing, right? Like, you got to kill me to get me to quit when I have a goal in mind for myself, I'll quit people, I'll quit situations, but when I have a goal that's really clear to me, you have to kill me to stop me. And so I just kept writing and writing and writing, and eventually I wrote a Dolph Lundgren movie. That was my first thing. It's called The Russian Specialist.
Sweet.
Dude, all right.
Got to meet Dolph, and that was super cool because he's a really, really good guy. And he was, and he kind of knew I was really green. I had no idea what I was doing. He flew me out to his house in Spain to work on the script.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so you're hanging out with Drago,
Dude.
right? And in his house, he has the Masters of the Universe sword in a glass case, because of course he does.
Nice.
He's such a smart guy, and it was really the first time, because he directed this movie, and it was the first time I sat with a director and an actor and really went through things scene by scene. And he was really patient. And, he a lot of times he'd be like, Bryan, I see what you're doing here in the scene, and that's good. But I think the scene would be more effective if we did it in a different way. And I was like, cool. I'm not Apollo Creed. I'm listening. You know what I mean? Like, I'm listening. So that was the first thing. And then I had a drought. And then I wound up selling a script to Universal Studios, which was a bit of a bigger deal because it's a major studio, and that gave me enough money to move out to LA. And then I just kind of kept it going from there. And comics, I was always a big fan of comics. My dad died when I was a kid, so I got really into Batman when I was a kid. Batman kind of held me down. So I loved comics, but I just had no idea how to get into them. And I think once I had a little Hollywood success, that was enough validation for comic book decision makers to say, okay, yeah, maybe we can let this guy do some stuff. And then I started doing comics that way. And then the TV stuff I slipped and fell into that from a comic book I did. I wrote a book called Postal, not based on the video game. No, I'm not throwing shots at it, but we got two different experiences here. Two different experiences. My Postal was like a little crime thriller, and that got the interest of TV people.
Okay.
And then from that, I met a lot of showrunners, and I met this guy, Mark Verheiden, who is a lovely man, who was a mentor of mine as well as my boss on Ash vs. Evil Dead. That was my first season of the show. Then from that show, I went to Titans, and I rode Titans out from the first season to the last one. That is, I think we still got about 5 episodes to broadcast right now on HBO Max. So yeah, and that's kind of how I got here, man. Still moving, still building. Every day's a battle. Right now, I'm furiously focused on a couple big studio movies I'm writing, television project I am developing, and I have 2 features that I might be directing. One of them is produced by a very good friend of mine, Julie Christeas, who I've known for about 20 years. She's a brilliant producer. Produced Black Bear with Audrey Plaza back in the day. So I'm excited about this project. She brought that to me, and I think it's a really special one. And then I have a crime thriller that I've been working on to hopefully get behind the camera on before the end of this year. A little more detail about that as it goes. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm all about.
Booked and busy. I'm not mad at it.
Right.
Listen,
That's a lot.
Stay up or fall down. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah, I got a follow up to that though, because now it seems like you guys are able to get all the work that you need, being a writer, creative. How is it different now from the past 2 years where it was very hard to get work due to COVID? Do you see the restrictions has lifted to give you guys more liberties and freedom to work, or you still feel restricted by it?
Oh, that's a good question. So it didn't really affect me in a negative way, COVID, because I work from home. right? So when the world is working from home, well, I was like, your boy been working from home for a long time. And all it really affected was my ability to go to a coffee shop and work, which I do sometimes. So I was able to get a lot of writing work over the pandemic. I did have an independent film that I was going to self-finance at about like 150K, not 150 million. I ain't like that. If I had 150 million, we'd be having this conversation on my boat. But
that part,
right? And we will, we will, brother. We'll get
Someday.
there. Brother, we'll get there. Check in with
Someday.
but yeah, so I was gonna shoot this movie, and I was gonna shoot it in my spot. I had the money I was gonna put together for it. I had some great actors that wanted to do the project, but I had to put that on the back burner because shooting an independent film is hard enough as it is. But shooting an independent film with the stress of a pandemic, it's just too crazy, and so like it really only affected production, right? So like writing you can do from anywhere, but production, getting everyone there. So for instance, we were shooting the 3rd season of Titans during the peak of the pandemic. Normally on Titans, we would go to Toronto and we would be there present to produce our episodes, to be on set, answer questions, solve problems, that whole thing. Because of the pandemic, couldn't do that. So we did all of the producing work we could from LA. So I'm watching production on my computer, texting the director and the actors what they need to know. And so that was a little tricky, kind of remote producing was tricky. But besides that, didn't really have a ton of issues, but I'm also a very adaptable person. Like one of my things I tell people is, and this is like some Bruce Lee, right? You just got to be like water, and life is a lot easier when you take the shape of the glass, right? If you try to fight it, you're going to be bringing a lot of conflict. So whenever a situation happens, I always say, okay, there's always opportunity in adversity. You just have to find it. And so that was kind of my attitude towards that, and really kind of everything.
Sweet. I have a little selfish. Yeah, I have a selfish question to ask about Titans.
I will not loan you $20.
Not that. This was a little more personal.
All right, okay.
Because I'm a huge fan of Titans, and I really love the way you have your own identity with your writing style and the way you choose to have characters act with one another. You directed the episode, written the episode Blackfire, which is the sister dynamic between Corey and her sister.
Yeah.
Their relationship in that specific episode was more realistic, I should say. It wasn't so character-based, but it was more grounded in real life sisterhood issues that are Black women. So what inspirations did you take from your personal life and interjected them into these 2 Black female superheroes?
Okay, that's a good question. So first, let me give credit to the showrunner of Titans, a guy named Greg Walker. Greg is a wonderful guy, good friend, good mentor. And when you're working on a show for that long, it's the best way I can explain it is he's kind of like the captain character in the police drama. Like you got to be out here on these streets doing things, and you got to bring him the evidence when you get done. It's like that kind of thing. You really form a relationship, a bond with the showrunner in the perfect scenario, right? So credit to Greg for wanting to harness everybody's personal experience into this and wanting to give the actors the best opportunity they had to demonstrate their gifts, right? And it really all, we never started from social theory funneling it down into script, right? It all kind of starts intimately between, your relationship with the characters and the actors. And Anna Diop and Damaris Lewis are 2 wonderful people, and they're incredibly dynamic in their own ways. Very, very impressive. They're very smart. They're generous. They're giving. They're very kind. They're patient, and they're both like impossibly beautiful, right? So when you have 2 people that have so much inside them to offer, you want to try to make things as interesting as you can. And, they shared a lot of their experience that we harnessed into the storytelling. So it really is a village effort to get that kind of authenticity that you're talking about. But ultimately, the script is just words on a page. Doesn't mean anything until the actors breathe life into it. And when they breathe life into it, they're sharing themselves with it, right?
Yeah.
And so what you want to do as a writer, I think, ideally, beyond telling the story, is have a script that's a blueprint that allows people to put their own, life experience into something and make it better by doing than it could have been by you just writing.
Well said. Well said. I just remember watching that specific episode. I'm like, these really do seem like sisters at this point, not really superheroes. Like, I dug that episode. It's really good.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just due to their work ethic and how they, shared dramatic space with each other and kind of built that feeling on screen. I mean, one of the big things about movies and TV is you can't plan chemistry, y'all. You just can't plan it.
Facts.
And sometimes you can do chemistry reads. I know in big movies you can do that kind of thing where it's like, well, he's gonna play Bond and she's gonna play the female lead, so like, Countessa du Tite or whatever her name will be in the next Bond movie, and you do chemistry reads to see if they can vibe, right? So you can do that in some scenarios, but in TV you can't really, because it's a moving target, scheduling and the rest of it. You're looking at everyone's individual work, but you'd have no idea how they're going to react together.
Right.
And we got really lucky on Titans, where we had a lot of actors that had great chemistry with one another, and I think that really helped elevate the experience of the show when people got a real experience from it.
Yeah. I'm just sad that it's ending. I'm sad that I'm happy for the new universe that's being created, but I'm sad that we kind of got to say goodbye to what it is.
Well, I mean, look, all good things come to an end, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And part of this business is, you're signing on to things and you don't know how many you're going to get. You don't know how many seasons you're going to do it. So you always want to kind of leave everything you can on the table. I think this last season of Titans is our best season. I think these last episodes are our best episodes. I think there's some really great experiences yet to come. And then when it comes to James and what James Gunn, what he's doing, I don't know him personally, but he's also from the Lou, right?
Right.
So shout out to that. And he seems a really genuine guy. We traded some I messed that up. We traded some tweets, and he seems like a really cool dude. I love his work. So, I'm really excited to see what he does with his passion and brings it to it. And you never know. You never know. I might creep my way back into the DC universe sooner than later, man. Things happen.
Yay, man, to that.
Yeah, I'll be down to see that.
Yeah. But go ahead, y'all. I ain't gonna hold up the questions. I'm sorry I was holding him hostage, but y'all free to ask.
Oh no, you good. You good. Wait, anybody got a question before I ask mine?
I got one. So you're obviously a bit of a renaissance man, dude. You are an author, you're a screenwriter, you're a musician, a comic book writer, a graphic designer. You've done so many things. I don't know if a lot of people know this about you. You've also been I know you've also been an active peer counselor for high-risk youth, and I know those issues are very prominent in the work that you do right now. Is there anything you want to tell us about that?
Well, sure. I mean, it sort of happened organically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't have like the worst childhood or anything. I had a loving mother who did the best she could to take care of me, and she did for the most part. But I did have a lot of struggles, not a lot of money, scholarship kid to a school where everybody was richer than me, so I had a lot of shame, right? And shame led to fear of not being good enough, and fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. So I know I had a lot of just like kind of adolescent, kind of anger about things, and so I know what it's like to be young and be struggling. I know what it's like to be kind of old and be struggling, and so I would do like little guest things at schools, or people would call me in to come in and talk to people, and then from that it just turned into, if people want to get together on a Zoom and ask me some questions, maybe think about charting a creative life, and I get those together on a semi-regular basis. And I don't know anything, I'm not wise, but I've been through stuff, and so what I tell people is I don't have advice, I have experience. and I can share experience, and people can do whatever they want to do with that. But I try to just be a person that I wished I could have known when I was in my most difficult times, And my main focus is just reminding people that there's always possibility that hard work will pay off. It does take time. Have faith in the process, and try not to live a life dominated by fear, anger, and bitterness. If you march through the world waiting for it to confirm to you that the world is awful, it's gonna.
Right.
That's the bottom line. Like, it's gonna, right? And the first thing that we got to do to break the negative cycles that either we inherited or we created is to look at things differently, and to not go into life waiting to get screwed over, waiting to get told no, waiting to fail, and part of that's also ego too, right? Like, so like when we think like that, it can lead to like a sense of self-pitying and the rest of it, which really is just a solipsist celebration of ego, right? It's sort of saying, well, I know what will be, so I've just accepted whatever. And when I see young people that are building that frame for themselves, it can feel like it's good for you. It can feel like it'll keep you safe. If you think everyone's out to get you, then I guess nobody gets you. But then nobody loves you either.
True that
right?
too. You only gotta love yourself.
And so, I try to, because I know those feelings well. I am familiar with the dark side. I try to like just give people tools that I wish I had to work themselves through that. Especially when it comes to wanting to be a musician or a writer or a filmmaker or an actor or those kind of things. It's kind of always filtered through a creative life. Because I wasted a lot of time on BS, honestly. I wasted a lot of time on BS thoughts and BS feelings. And I lost a lot of good people along the way. So I try to make sure to at least counter that perspective in other people, so maybe they can learn from my mistakes and make better choices than I did.
Yeah, I know a lot of the viewers and listeners out there who are creators who just feel like they're in a hole or they can't open the right doors to get it out there. It's kind of like just do it. Just go for it. Put your work out there. Do it yourself. Somebody's going to see it. One day it's going to take off. But
well, yeah, and to that point, I don't know anybody who is working their ass off and getting better every day at their craft and hasn't been able to get a result. I just don't know that person, right?
True.
I've never met that person. Right. I know a lot of people, and I've never met that person. I met the people that they'll do one thing, doesn't get a result they want, then they'll use that as evidence that they can't do anything, and then they'll talk to everyone they know about how impossible their dream was and how impossible your dream is. I know plenty of those people, right? But I don't know anyone who's just working every day to get better at their craft, sharing their work, who doesn't eventually get some kind of result. And I'm lucky in a way because I'm a little older, so I didn't grow up in the age of social media. I didn't grow up with the instant gratification of all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with like the fake, false dopamine hits of likes and follows and all that nonsense. It doesn't mean anything when it comes to your actual life. Like, I didn't grow up with that. But young people, they're growing up with that, and a lot of that is distracting, and a lot of it is, and a lot of that is. Social media has you buying into someone's billboard and comparing that to your actual life.
I mean, it's being young is hard at this time because a lot of people do put validation in the social media likes and things like that. I mean, even now you could book jobs just by being a social media influencer. So there's some validation there, but I just want the young people to know it's not about everything because there are people losing their lives over losing followers, which is so crazy to me.
And look, and yes, in reality, you can convert social media popularity into revenue. You can, but there's a pressure now that didn't exist when I was coming up, right? Like, I never had a running numerical tally to tell me how many people were interested in me. Like I never had to deal with it in that way. And I think I think there is a crisis of human connection right now. I do. I think that we have the word is parasocial, right? Which means kind of like the false social. We have all these parasocial relationships that make us think that, oh yeah, you know, I've got all this going on and these are all my friends. And look, your friends are the people who are there for you when they have nothing to gain. That is who a friend is. If someone in your life does not reach that definition, they are not your friend. They might be someone you like. They might be someone you like spending time with. They might smell nice. They might do things for you on occasion. But a friend is someone who is there for you when they have nothing to gain, right? And I think that's critical to remember, you know, and paring down some of this parasocial nonsense helps us, I think, kind of remain grounded and do all of that. So I'm not anti-social media, really. I just think we don't conscientiously examine its role in our lives. But yes, so that was your Bryan Hill sociology minute.
Hey, it was a needed discussion just based on the whole mental stability over social media and what it can do and can't do for someone's mental health. So I mean, hey,
sure, facts.
I mean, a lot of people kill themselves over social media nowadays.
Well, you know, I think more specifically, a lot of people kill themselves over loneliness.
Yeah.
Right. And social media is a bastard fake antidote to loneliness. You know, and
that's deep.
Yeah, it is, right? And then you create this version of yourself that you curate, and then you present it, and then people, they respond positively to this version of yourself that oftentimes you're not really that. So now you're kind of living up to this thing, but you still have to deal with the reality of your life. And there's a loneliness of, I don't really have a lot of people in my life I can count on. But there's a deeper loneliness that comes from, I have a lot of people who are interested in me, but none of them care about me.
They only see you as currency.
Right. That's like a deeper loneliness, right? That's the loneliness of celebrity, you know, and I know a lot of celebrities and I know what it's like to go through that from their perspective. You know, and I'm even guilty of it, because if I meet a famous person, I've got all of this idea of who they are because of the work that I've seen. I don't know them from Adam, you know, and it takes time to actually get to know them. Right. So, you know, and in smaller ways, I think that happens to a lot of us. You know, we get lost in the sauce of it all.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, I think social media is the new escapism, the kind of way that comic books and things were back in the days, where you can project yourself into being something different and escape your world. And now with social media, you don't have to look at the Superman, the Spider-Man, the Batman. You can look at the Kardashians, the Logan Pauls of the world, and things like that. Like, oh, that could be me in the future. I could live vicariously through them, through their likes. And if they like my comment, I mean, they see me. You know what I mean? And I think that's the issue.
It's a larger cultural issue. I worked in advertising when I came out of NYU. And one of the things I learned in advertising is people don't buy products, they buy self-esteem.
True.
Because if you have a company and you have a product trying to get people to buy it, necessity isn't going to get people to buy it. Right? Like if you got a cut in your foot, you're going to go get some medicine, put the medicine in the cut and heal it, because you need medicine for your foot because your foot has a cut. But most of the purchases we make are things we do not need. So how do we purchase them? Why do we purchase them? Well, because something in us tells us we do need it. And that something in us is usually tied into self-esteem. The idea that getting this is going to somehow help us, make us better, stronger in the eyes of others, in our own eyes, what have you. So if self-esteem is the real currency of our age, which I think it kind of is, then you have a culture that's built to make sure we don't have too much of it. Because if you can think to the last time you were really, really happy, whatever that last time was, I bet when you were really, really happy, you didn't want to buy anything.
Facts. Right. I think that was every second Friday of the month when I get a paycheck.
Right. So
it's bliss.
so our culture kind of exists to poke holes in that bliss.
Yeah.
You know, to get you to need to get this thing. And it's fine But we just got to know what's happening, right? Like I'm not demonizing the world that we live in, and there's a lot of opportunity in there, and it's all great. I just tell people, be conscious about what you're experiencing, what you're letting into your world, what you're letting into your mind, what you're letting into your heart.
Yeah.
Don't just let it happen to you. Like, take moments every day. Like, one of the things I tell people is, and this was told to me and it helped me out a lot, was at the end of every day, just take a moment to think over what happened that day. Take 5 minutes to think over what happened that day. What am I proud of? What am I not so proud of? What went right? What went wrong? How can I repair it and not make the same mistake in the future? Just take 5 minutes just to be mindful and present. And I'm not saying meditate. I mean, I meditate, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. But like, how often do we just pause and say, like, hold on, let me just think through what happened today. Let me just take a moment. Like, not just to photograph it so I can put it on Instagram. Let me just really think about what I went through today, how I feel about things, so you can always step into the dojo of life with balance.
Stop and feel the sun on your skin for a moment.
Facts.
That's really deep. It's an interesting conversation. Like this. Like you put me on something I never really thought about, and I stay on streaming apps like constantly, so I can relate what you saying. And there are people on there, on streaming apps, be feeling like, are they dependent on that app, like a what's the word? A codependence? I think that's
a codependence on it.
Yeah, codependent. I knew it was one code. So,
well, you got really smart people,
and then they feel like if they don't reach that tier, they go crazy. It's like, yo, y'all gotta help me get my tier, man. Y'all gotta help me get my tier. I'm like, you don't have to bad people to help you. They gonna help you in time if they want to help. They basically spending money on you. And if people go lose that mind, it's like, they're not spending money on me. How y'all gonna expect me to throw back at you if y'all ain't throwing, y'all ain't throwing at me? It's the everyday life on my social media. And I just a DJ, so I DJ on there, and I experienced it before I go live and see all this reaction. How people was on there before I was go nuts.
Well,
and they top broadcasters.
It's the culture, right? It's kind of the moment that we are in. And I mean, TikTok is, people worry about a war with China, them sending nuclear missiles. They're not going to send nuclear missiles. They've already corrupted us with an app.
There you go.
TikTok.
Like they don't need a missile. They have broken the heart of American culture with an app, right? So the irony of scrolling through TikToks talking about China is going to go to war with us while you're on China's application, which is literally just distracting you, right? Like, yeah, occasionally you might get a recipe or something like this or something like that, and sure, whatever. I mean, you can stub your toe 20 times, and then one of those times you might get a thought. Doesn't mean you stub your toe to think. Yeah. So it's but we invite it in. We invite all this stuff in, and I just think we just gotta look, like what you like, enjoy what you enjoy. Just take a moment to think about what it's doing to you.
That's interesting now that I think about it. Yeah, because I don't think it's going to be anything physical if they do attack. It's going to be, like you said, doing the maps, doing these apps, because the worst weapon you could do is change someone's thought process.
Yeah, there's no sleep. War is about money. War isn't about principle. War isn't about geography anymore. War is about money. Right. War, the reason why Putin is invading Ukraine is because he needs Ukraine so he can have more economic power.
That's
like it's war is always about money. And so if there's no fiscal incentive to fight a war, and why would we owe China billions?
Yes.
They ain't gonna get it if they blow us up.
That part.
All they're trying to do is neutralize America from their desire to do what they want to do as a nation, right? That's how wars operate. War is a business. It's very rarely a matter of strict principle, and so you got to look at, a multilateral warfare. You've got to look at, well, there's a PSYOP thing, and I think TikTok is part of it. I'm not like anti-TikTok, full stop or anything. I'm just saying, listen, have a bourbon if you like a bourbon, but just remember, bourbon ain't water.
Facts.
Mm.
Well
Deep.
said. Well said.
Message.
See,
That's
with all
definitely a message.
yeah,
that's
just picking your
message.
brain and hearing you just talking how analytical you are right now, I just know we are in for a treat with some of your future projects coming up because damn.
Yeah, man.
I mean, look, I've been really lucky. I have a lot of smart people in my life, and I talk to them, learn from them, and kind of share, what that does for me. But yeah, I do try to create stories with intention for sure. I mean, I try to, fiction is the last vestige of philosophy we have in the world. Right, like
It is.
I mean, I read Socrates, right? I read Seneca, I read Marcus Aurelius. I'm a Stoic, modern day philosophers like Ryan Holiday. Like I read his work a lot. Big fan of his work. But most people don't, and most people will get introduced to ideas through stories. So I'm cognizant of that, right? And I wish there was a little more of that in storytelling. I feel like when I was growing up, there were a lot of movies that taught me things. That like Karate Kid, right?
Oh yeah.
Obviously
The wax
Star
on,
Wars.
wax off.
Yeah, like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, like the mythology, in those movies, the philosophy behind that, like try not, do or do not, there is no try, right? Like that's missing from entertainment now.
It is because it's all about the gore or can we get some what is like a highlight reel for our trailers or whatever. That's all you're going to get for entertainment. Like how many seats can we get? How many butts can we get in a seat to get the most profit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't care if it's good storytelling or anything like that.
Yeah, a movie or a show is a low grade hypnotic experience. Right?
Keyword of media.
Because think about it. When you're watching a movie, you're just watching a screen, right?
Facts.
Now, if you were to turn around right now and look at a blank wall, you probably wouldn't be able to do it for that long.
Oh, I could. I would create a whole visual piece.
Well, because you're insane, you'd be fine, Joker. But but like a lot of people, like this wouldn't be able to do it, right? Like the act of just staring at a thing for 2 hours, or even longer than that if you're binging a show, physically it would be difficult for most people to do. So why are they able to do it? Why are you able to sit in that couch and stay there for 2 hours? Why are you able to sit in that movie theater and look at that screen for 2 hours? It's not just because there's lights and color, because I can put lights and color on the wall, probably wouldn't keep your attention. It's because you're being drawn into the experience in a low-grade hypnotic way. And because that is happening to you, when ideas are presented in a film you are experiencing, they will reach you in a deeper way because your mind is set to receive, right?
So like the Matrix.
It's true, right? Because your mind is set to receive, and those moments are really important because they, you keep kind of going back to it, and I'm an 80s, kid. So like, I kind of came up in the age of it's going to be hard work. It's going to take a lot of practice to get better at it. But if you want it more than the other person, you can get it. And somewhere down the line, that message got lost. And so when I'm talking about my own work, my own stuff, what I try to do in my work is keep that spirit in my work, so that the work can hopefully do for somebody else what other people's work did for me.
And this is why I'm so excited.
Philosophy, man.
I'm so excited about the elephant in the room because there are 3 people attached to this project that are of the same mind length. Whatever the word is, but you guys are pretty much cut for the same cloth. You guys think the same. You guys are thinkers. Brian, Jonathan, Jennifer, you guys are really good. I like the names there. You guys don't know where I'm segueing.
That's a good one.
But yeah, we got to talk about it. The Power Rangers reboot coming soon. Hopefully. Can you confirm, deny? Is it coming?
Well, okay, so I have been. Here we go. We going in.
I'm trying to be as nice as I could. Going to little segue there.
Going in. You asking about the album? I understand. Going in. Everybody want to know when the Kendrick album coming out. I understand. Listen.
The NDA snipers. It's all good.
So the first thing I'll say is I think Jonathan Entwistle is just a brilliant and remarkable guy. When I met him through my time on the project, I thought his mind was amazing. I think his love of this stuff is great. He's a fan, and I think that's really going to carry through. So I can't get into like the weeds of how projects develop, but all I'll say is the work that I did with Jonathan, I was very proud of, and I think he received it very well. And it's kind of like when you're a writer, you're sort of like Tom Cruise in Collateral, right?
Gotcha.
Like you show up, Jason Statham bumps into you and hands you a briefcase. Enjoy LA, and then you go through LA. You got 5 targets you got to hit, and all of that. So I did my work on it, but the process has gone on beyond my work. So I genuinely have no idea what's going on with it at this point, because I was there in some of the beginning stages of the creative thinking. And you got to look at these things a lot like a bucket. And when you're working on someone's intellectual property, you're really holding like a bucket, and you're putting things of value into the bucket. And then usually that bucket will wind up leaving your hands and going to somebody else.
Right.
And then they put their things into the bucket, but sometimes they take a couple of your things out, they leave a couple of your things in, put their things on top, and then the bucket gets handed to somebody else, right? And that's kind of what this is. So I can't speak at all in any detail to what's going on currently because I do not know. But I do know that Jonathan is super talented, and I really enjoyed the process of working with him for as long as I was part of that process. And I wish them the best, and I'm as excited as anyone to see what they do.
So we're excited to see this beautiful Frankenstein of a monster that is the Power Rangers reboot.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it's a Frankenstein's monster. I mean, that's how the process is for all this stuff, man. Like,
right.
Like it's people come in and everyone's moving towards the same goal. And sometimes it's schedules, sometimes it's your creative voice can accomplish 6 of the 10 things that need to get accomplished, but the other 4 they got to get someone who focuses on that to do. Like things happen, but it's not a Frankenstein's monster in the sense that it's imperfect because of the process. The truth of the matter is that is the process for everything, right? And like one of my favorite films, The Empire Strikes Back. There was an entire screenplay that Lee Brackett wrote that didn't get used for that movie. But elements of that script did get carried over, and then Lawrence Kasdan came in and worked with George and got it to the place where it is right now. So, I know there's a lot of like pop culture chatter and a lot of YouTubes and, a lot of kind of like, well, this person was on it and this person isn't on it anymore, and that means the project's in disarray. No, it's just the process. Right. That's just how this goes. And, multiple projects I've worked on that I've been in, I came in the middle after someone else had done some heavy lifting, or I came in at the end after, to do the last bit, or maybe I got started from the beginning and kind of set the whole thing in motion. So I think it'll be strong, and I think they're making a real plan for it. And, fans of Power Rangers, should just be, excited about what's going on and stop yelling at me on Twitter. I love y'all, but I mean,
once you entered the Ranger fandom, you are stuck in this rabbit hole forever.
Apparently, it's like the mafia.
Yeah, it is.
It's like I got a $100 loan from somebody named Vinny, and now I gotta hide a body.
Welcome to the fandom.
No, but I'm just playing. I love everybody, and I love everyone's interest, and it's really flattering to have people reach out and ask questions. And as a fan of stuff myself, I totally understand the need to know. And then as people like that, are trying to build a platform as cultural journalists, I understand the need to know first. So I totally get all of that. But rest assured, things are in good hands.
Well, we appreciate you for being so transparent with
Have
this.
you had Jonathan on the podcast?
Not yet.
Okay, he's good. He's a great dude. He's a great dude. Shout out Jonathan.
Yes, keyword yet, not yet. But yeah, it was such a pleasure having you on here. Give us an insight into the industry, the projects that you're working on, the way that you think, your creative processes. I mean, this was just as a Black man who started this podcast with these lovely people here, from where we started to always grinding to where we are to even having you even here, and guests that we had past episodes and even coming into the future. Never stop the grind, never stop believing in your dream, keep going for it. If somebody tells you no, take that as a yes for yourself. Keep it pushing.
I actually wanted to ask one last question before you left. First of all, you are enthralling to listen to, man. You are a great storyteller. And I'm actually a Stoic too.
Oh,
Recent
wonderful.
recent inductee. But yeah, I've personally found like it's so helpful with like, just being, and also like your creative process too. So for any of our listeners out there who have also been trying to just, I don't know, find some help in that kind of process, are there any tips that you have at all? And like just, mindset, philosophy, and just learning to enjoy the process, and like not prioritizing the goal as much as that, if that makes sense.
For sure. I mean, I could speak to that briefly, right? So, for me, Stoicism has helped ground me in a business that, in both a professional and social sense, can be rather chaotic, right? And what I have found as I chart my path is if you can be the calmest person in the process, people will likely want to keep you in the process, you know? Um, and so when I think about reading, Marcus Aurelius, the Meditations, or reading Seneca, or even Ryan Holiday, who interprets a lot of that stuff and then makes it a little bit more readable for the average person. It's really, Stoicism for me is really about letting go of the things that you can control and embracing the things that you can control, but focus on enjoying the process and not the result, right? Um, because oftentimes the result is beyond our control. We can control how we try to achieve the result, but we oftentimes cannot control the result itself. And we oftentimes don't understand what result we really want, right? Like, example, there's a really pretty girl at your Starbucks. You see her there every day, 10 a.m., drinking a coffee. You want to talk to her. You really want to talk to her because you'd like to go on a date with her. You'd like to get to know her better, right? And so then you go in there and you talk to her, and she declines because she's got a boyfriend, or maybe she's rude, or whatever it is. But while you're walking out of that Starbucks, you bump into somebody else who's interesting and friendlier and warm and welcome. And you wouldn't have met that person if you hadn't gone into that Starbucks to talk to the girl that you saw in the coffee shop, right?
True.
And if it, you had to be in that place in that time, so maybe coffee shop lady, her only purpose in your life was to get you into that place in time so you can meet sidewalk lady, right? And that's, we don't really know, what result we really want. So I think applying that helps. I mean, in a couple precepts that help me out a lot. One of them, kind of my main one, is you can't control what other people do. You can just control how you react to what other people do. Like that's all you can do. And knowing that made things a lot easier, for me, because I realized I have no power over what people do. The only power I have is over how I react to what people do. And that made me much less reactive as a person, because I realized when I am reacting, I'm giving other people my power. And I don't want to do that. And that helped me, kind of retain my strength and be able to kind of move through life in a better way, and so if anything that I just said over the last like 30-45 seconds is appealing to you, dear listener, then I strongly suggest checking out the work of Ryan Holiday. I'd start there. He has a book called The Daily Stoic that is a daily reader. It's really easy to incorporate into your life. You can read, it's got 365 chapters. They're very short. You can read one a day. I strongly recommend starting with that and seeing if any of that stuff resonates with you. And if it does, then you can sort of follow Holiday's work to other works and kind of get there that way. But yeah, I mean, that's it really helps me in this business. Oh, last thing I'll say, the other thing that I think is really helpful is I used to be in a place where when things were going really well, I let myself feel elation. But then when things didn't go really well, I crashed down again, right? And that was so hard for the soul. Like it's great when the highs are high, but then when they slip down, the lows get really low. And one of the things that I learned from someone is you've got to treat success and failure the same way.
Yeah.
Treat them the same way. Like don't treasure one and then run away from the other. Just kind of let them both have equal value. Not that you're not happy when something goes well. You can be happy. Just don't let that define you, right? Because you're going to have a bad day. It's just going to happen. So you want to be able to kind of take everything the same way. And when you're in a job where you're trying to get work and sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't, and you're trying to do this, putting a movie together, maybe you got the money, maybe you don't, maybe you got the actor, maybe you don't, it's really important to maintain your center, and not let yourself swing back and forth, right? Yeah. And I would even, and then on a personal level, I would also suggest, like, thinking about the friends and family you have and all of that. I mean, if you have people in your life that are pushing you away, pulling you back, pushing you away, pulling you back, maybe think about getting off of that ride.
That part. And your family doesn't have to be blood ties. It could be your friends or anyone else.
Not at all. In fact, sometimes it's chosen family can be there in a way that birth family often isn't, right?
Yes.
Because they don't have to be there. And if they're, like, again, a friend is someone that will do something for you when they have nothing to gain, when they will be there for you when they have nothing to gain, right? And so, yeah, but yeah, check out the work of Ryan Holiday, and hopefully it gives you the same benefit it gave me, and explore Stoicism. It works.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, you guys definitely check that out. Yeah. Again, check out and follow Mr. Bryan Edward Hill on all social media accounts. This man is a gem in Hollywood, okay? He's not Hollywood, air quotation marks, but he is of Hollywood, so... Thank you again for this beautiful conversation here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I
appreciate the kind words. Thank you for sharing your platform. Thanks everyone for listening, who's listening to this, and everybody have a good day. Stay safe.
You too.
Thanks for joining us, man.
All right.
You're welcome anytime.
Okay, right on.
Bye.